Good day. Today we will be looking at the November 2021 paper, question 1. Okay, so question 1 says solve for x. Looking at the first question, we have a trinomial. How do we identify trinomials? We identify trinomials by the structure of it. So your first variable is going to have a squared. Your second variable is going to be a number with a variable, and your third is going to be a constant. That is how you identify a trinomial. So let's look at 1.1. So what we have is x squared minus 2x minus 24 equals 0. Okay, and there's 3 more questions. So firstly, we're going to put our brackets. We're going to look at x squared. 2, so x squared, we need 2 variables for x squared, and it's going to give me just x and x. Okay, so x. Next step is you're going to look at 24. So what 2 factors of 24 are going to help me get an answer of 2? So our factors would be 12 and 2. That's very far off from 2. That could give me 10 or 14. 6 and 4, yes, that can likely give me 2. Now, the next thing that you do is you need to look at the sign of your middle term to help you determine your signs here. But because it's negative, I want my bigger term to be negative and my other term can be positive. Okay? So now let's check our answer. Okay, so that would be your answer. And then finally we would say x is equal, but I want to check it first before I actually say that. So let's check it, and how we check is we multiply it out to see if we get the same answer. So x times x is x squared, negative 6 times positive 4, negative 24. Then we've got minus 6, and we've got minus 6x plus 4x. So the answer is x squared minus 2x minus 24, and so it is equal to what we just calculated. So let's quickly erase this here. Okay, and we can erase our checking. Okay, and then my final answer is going to be x is equal to 6 or x is equal to negative 4. Okay, let's take a look at the next ones. The next one says 1.1.2. We have 2x squared minus 3x minus 3 is equal to 0, and it is correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, so generally when they say correct to 2 decimal places, that requires us to use the quadratic formula. Okay, because looking at this, we're unable to find any factors from 3 and 2 that are going to give me 3. So let's write out our quadratic formula. It's b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Okay, let's substitute. So my a value is 2, b is negative 3, be very careful of signs, and c is negative 3. Okay, so b is negative 3. Oh, in the formula that's negative b. So negative 3 plus or minus, remember here I've got b squared, so negative 3 squared minus 4, a is 2 and c is negative 3. Okay, then over 2, a is 2. Okay, so some students like to just go and straight away put this into their calculator, but that's not a good idea because it's very easy to make mistakes. So I would say try first to simplify it. So a negative and a negative is a positive 3 plus or minus in here I've got, here you can simplify, so it's going to be 9 plus 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 3 is 24, okay, over 4. Let's simplify this, so 9 plus 24 is 33. Now you can take this and put it into your calculator. So what I'm going to have there is x is equal to 3 plus root of 33 over 4, or x is equal to 3 minus root 33 over 4. And now when you put it into your calculator, it said corrected 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 2.19, or this is going to be negative 0.69. Okay. Now, I'm going to be doing mark allocation as we're going along. So let's quickly go back to 1.1. So in 1.1, the mark allocation is 3 marks. Okay. So let's quickly take a look at those 3 marks. The first point is for your factors. The next one is for having 6 and for having 4. That's 3 marks. The next question is also 3 marks. Substitution into the correct formula is 1. Okay, so correctly substituting your values of A, B, and C. And then the other 2 is just for your answers. Okay. Now, let's take a look at 1.1.3. So we've got x squared plus 5x less than or equal to negative 4. And for all of these questions, we are solving for x. Okay, so let's remove all of this so we have some space here. Let's go back to back. Okay, so 1.1.3, we've got x squared plus 5x less than or equal to negative 4. Okay, so what we have here is an inequality. Okay, so firstly I'm going to try to create a trinomial. So to the other side, but x squared plus 5x minus positive 4 because we're taking it over, and the sign stays the same. Okay, now we're going to find our factors. So x and x, 4 and 1, because 2 and 2 is not going to give me 5. All are positive, so my signs are fairly easy. They're all positive. Now this is going to help me in an inequality y, because it's going to help me to create my critical values. So my critical values are x is equal to negative 4 or x is equal to negative 1. Now make sure you draw out your answer. Okay, so here I've got negative 4 and here I've got, and because why is it a closed circle? It's a closed circle because it's less than or equal to. If it is just less than, then it's an open circle. Okay, and here we've got negative 1. Also make sure you have the correct positioning. Negative 4 comes down here and negative 1 is here because of the positioning on a number line. Okay, and so let me draw my circles. We'll color it in and then we can connect. So my answer is that x is either going to lie between negative 1 or between negative 4. Mark allocation here was 4 marks. The first is for your standard form, next is for your critical values, and the last is for the answer, 2 marks. Okay. Okay, next we've got 1.1.4. Okay, let's write out 1.1.4. So under the root, we have x plus 28 is equal to 2 minus x. And we're solving for x. So obviously we want to get rid of that root. And how do we get rid of a root? You square both sides. And what you do to one side, you always have to do to the other side. So here we're going to get x plus 28, but here now we have to multiply out. So we've got 2 minus x. Don't try to take a shortcut and just try to do it in your head. Actually write it out, okay? And if you need to write the smiley face, you write the smiley face. So 4 minus 4x plus x squared, and this side we've got x plus 28. Now we can create a trinomial. So we're going to take everything to one side. So 0, we want our x squared to remain positive, so there's x squared, minus 4x minus x, still plus 4 but now minus 28. So I'm going to have x squared minus 5x plus minus 24 because my bigger number is negative. Okay, factors. What factors of 24 are going to give me 5? I've got x, I've got x. So let's think about 24. What do we have from 24? We said earlier 12 and 2. No. 6 and 4 are not going to give me 5. What other factors do we have? We also have 8 and 3. And that is likely to give me 5. So 8 and 3, negative 5. So my bigger number is going to be negative and my smaller number is going to be positive. Therefore, x is equal to 8 or x is equal to negative 3. Okay, so for this question, 4 marks. Squaring both sides is a mark. Standard form, where we created the trinomial, is another mark. Factors is another mark, and the answers. So that was 4 marks. Okay. So those were all the questions that involved solving for x. The next question says, solve simultaneously for x and y in this question. Okay, so what do we have here? So we've got 2y is equal to 3 plus x. And then in the other one we have 2xy plus 7 is equal to x squared plus 4y squared. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here now. So when you have simultaneous equations, you have different ways of trying to solve it. You have substitution, you have elimination. But in this method, I can see substitution is going to be the easiest method because I can change this so that I can easily substitute. So let's label this 1, let's label this 2. And I'm going to change this so that x is the subject of the formula and it's 2y minus 3. And this is my new one. Okay, so now I'm going to, in simultaneous equations, write what you're doing so you keep your thought process. So I'm going to substitute 1 prime into 2. So we're substituting everywhere we see an x. So 2, we're going to substitute here, we're going to substitute 2y minus 3, we still have another y, plus 7 is equal to 2y minus 3 squared plus 4y squared. Lots of calculation to occur now. So let's start. 2y times 2, 4y, and 3 times 2 is minus 6. All of this is still going to multiply by y. The plus 7 remains. Let's simplify here. Remember what I said, write it out if you need to. Don't take a shortcut. And we've still got plus 4y squared. Okay, so let's go back to the start. So y times by each of these terms, we're going to get 4y squared minus 6y plus 7. On this side, I've now got to multiply, so I've got smiley face, 4y squared minus 6y is minus 12y plus 9 plus 4y squared. So let's take everything now to one side. So 4y squared so on this side I have 4y squared. I'm going to bring the other minus 4y squared, and I've got another 4y squared. Okay. I've got that 6y still there, but I'm going to bring the 12y. Remember your signs. I've got plus 7, but I've also got minus 9 now. Okay, so here, what do I have? That's going to cancel. I'm going to be left with minus 4y squared. Here I'm going to be left with minus 6y plus 2 is equal to 0. Let's get rid of this first value being a negative by swapping over to the other side. So I've got 4y squared plus 6y minus 2 is equal to 0. Looking at this, what do we notice? We notice that we have all even numbers. So we can further reduce by dividing by 2. Okay, so we're going to have 2y squared plus 3y minus 1 is equal to 0. What do we do now in this situation? We're trying to solve for y. So we're going to find factors. You just work as much as you possibly can until you can't work anymore. So 2y and y, 1 is going to be 1. But we need to see where do we need to put it for it to enable us to get the negative. So we've got this positive 3 here. If we've got a positive 3, that's going to mean everything can be negative. Okay, now that we have that, be careful here. Remember 2y minus 1 is equal to 0. So 2y is equal to 1. We're going to divide by 2 on both sides. Y is equal to a half, and here y will just be equal to 1. So now that we have our y values, what are we going to do? We're going to try to substitute to get our x values. Let's go back up and remember that equation that we had. So x is equal to 2y minus 3. That is where we're going to substitute back into. So x is equal to 2y minus 3. So if we substitute 1, that's fairly easy. X will be equal to 2 minus 3 is minus 1. Make sure you pair the correct values with the correct, like the correct x value with the correct y value. Then we have x is equal to 2y minus 3. We're going to substitute a half minus 3, that cancels out. It becomes 1 minus 3, which is equal to negative 2. I like to write the answer like this at the end so as to not get confused, and the examiner clearly understands which values are together. Okay, this was a long question. It was 6 marks. Okay, so the first one was for creating your new equation. That's actually a mark. Okay, substitution was the next mark. Simplifying was another mark, was a lot of simplifying. The standard form where you created that trinomial, that was 1 mark. And then your x and y values, so 6 marks in total. Okay, we have one more question in this section to do. Which is an applied question. So it says, the roots of an equation are x is equal to negative n plus or minus n squared minus 4mp over 2m. So what is that giving me? That's giving me the quadratic formula, where m and p are positive real numbers. The numbers m and p in that order form a geometric sequence. Prove that x is a non-real number. Okay, so we said it's a geometric sequence. So what do we know about geometric sequences? We know that they are ratios. Okay, so if it is a ratio, then we can say n over m is also equal to p over n, because m and p in that order exactly is a geometric sequence. So we're saying n over m is also equal to p over n. So it's a perfect sequence. And if we say that that's true, and we know that n squared is equal to mp from our cross multiplying and calculating that. But in this, we know that delta is b squared minus 4ac. But delta can also, in this case, be, so looking at this, what's my a? my A is M, my B in the equation is N, and my C is P. So substituting now, delta is going to be N squared minus 4 MP. But here we just said MP is equal to N squared. So let's substitute that in. So N squared minus 4N squared. And having that, that's now, we can calculate because they're like terms, minus 3N squared. Okay? And we know now that N squared must be more than 0 if it is a real number. But in this case, this is not. Okay? It's less than 0. Therefore, delta is less than 0 if x is a non-real number. This is an applied question, as I said. Let's just go through it again. Okay, it's a lot of different concepts that they're applying here. It's quadratic formula and geometric sequences. So it's giving me the quadratic formula here. So I took it and I said my A is M, my B is substituted as N, and my C is P. It says where M, N, and P are positive real numbers. But they're saying that the numbers M, N, and P in that order form a geometric sequence. So I wrote out, if it is a geometric sequence, it would be like this, M, N, P, and we're creating ratios. So we said N over M, going this way, is equal to P over N. We cross-multiplied, making N squared equal to MP. We know that for real numbers, delta must be greater than 0. Okay? Delta's formula is B squared minus 4AC. Substituting in there, we said N squared minus 4MP. But we know MP can also be N squared, so we substituted there. We got our answer to be negative, and because it's negative, it is a non-real number. Okay, and this question was 4 marks. It was a difficult applied question, so if you didn't get it, that's okay. These are one of the level 4 types of questions. So the first thing that you could have done is geometric sequence. Just understanding geometric sequence and putting that in would get a mark. Okay, cross multiplying it was another mark. And then delta being negative 3 is a mark and less than 0 is another mark. And that is 4 marks. Thank you so much.